Hello and welcome back to Champion Tree Hunting. I've got a very special episode for you guys today. You see, ever since I started this series, I've been trying to cover a new species of tree with every episode. Like, for example, since I started with Rhode Island's champion Dawn Redwood, I've been skipping every other state's champion Dawn Redwood, at least for now. However, out of necessity, I need to break that streak today. See, I've covered Rhode Island's champion Red Oak before, and behind me here stands Connecticut's champion Red Oak. Now, why am I doing the same species today? It's because this tree isn't going to wait around forever for me. This is the Ashford Oak, an institution here in Connecticut. And unfortunately, it's on its last legs. Over 375 years old, it has lived a long, long life. But now, fraught with disease and damage, it's unlikely it'll be able to push on for much longer. It could be completely dead anytime in the next few years. So for a while now, I've been trying to figure out how to cover this tree, how to talk about it, how to do it justice, and I just haven't been able to find the right words. So we're just gonna speak from the heart on this one, because I'm running out of time, you know. The Ashford Oak, one of Connecticut's most beautiful and long-standing trees. First peeked out of the ground way back in the mid-1600s and still stands here today as one of Connecticut's most beloved trees. It's actually decades older than the town it's named for, Ashford, Connecticut, which is super interesting because it means that at one time, this giant was just like any other normal-sized tree in any other forest you could find in Connecticut. Just one of thousands and thousands of red oaks in the massive old-growth forest that once stood on this spot. Eventually, the land that this tree sat on was converted to farmland and cleared of almost all its trees, just like the vast majority of New England. That's why trees of this age are so rare in this part of the country. Almost all of them were cut down, either for logs or to make room for farmland. A few of them were spared though, mostly to stand as like perimeter trees around the edges of farms, often to provide shade for animals. That's more than likely why this guy is still standing here with us today. Pretty cool, right? The last whisper of a forest that no longer exists. Once this tree finally wilts away, that ancient old-growth forest that it was once just a small part of will be gone entirely, replaced in totality by this handsome little new-growth forest we see around it now. As far as I can tell, this tree first gained notoriety way back in 1927 when it won first prize in a big tree contest, certifying its status as the largest red oak tree in the entire country. That's right, for a while this tree wasn't just the Connecticut state champion, it was the national champion of the entire United States. I actually read an interview of a man named Royal Knowlton, who was a little kid around the same time that the Ashford Oak won that contest. Knowlton was a descendant of one of the first original families that settled Ashford. In the interview, he describes memories of taking detours when he walked around town, just so he could come and get a look at the tree. Do you remember that big fella? Little Royal walking down that road, eyes wide in amazement. You remember his parents, his grandparents? Hell, maybe even his great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents? And maybe his kids and grandkids. Maybe the family's still around here today. How many times have you seen that same pair of eyes passed on from generation to generation, trotting down that road just to get a good look at you? You've been watching over that family for a long, long time. The Ashford Oak, though, couldn't stay that big and that grand forever. Its decline started in 1938 during a great hurricane that knocked 25 feet off the tree's crown. After that, the tree only continued to shrink. More and more of it fell to repeated lightning strikes, insect infestation, disease, heavy winds, until we end up with the tree we see today. Still massive, still beautiful, but clearly on its last legs. You know, this land it's on is actually a tiny plot of conservation land meant to house the tree as it lives out its final years. I read one description of this little place as like a pretty little hospice for the Ashford Oak, and honestly, I couldn't have put it better myself. It sits here on its own well-deserved land, having seen more than any of us ever will, living out its last few years, shrinking in its old age, just like we do. You know the cool thing about trees this old and this grand? is it's so easy to look at them and ascribe a human emotion, right? But so impossible to pick one objectively. Like, if you looked at this tree and you told me it was sad and depressed, I would believe you, right? It's in pain. It's so old. It's been here so long, and it's worried about what the world is going to look like without it. You know, the town of Ashford, the state of Connecticut, even the entire United States has had this tree here with us since the beginning, and it's not sure if we can press on without it. But by the same token, if you told me this tree was content, I'd believe you there too. Sure, it's in pain. Sure, it knows it's going down soon, but it's come to terms with that. It thinks we're ready for the world without the Ashford Oak. It set us up. It knows that we can push on. It knows that we're strong enough, and it's ready to pass on into the beyond. But at the end of the day, no matter what you think about this tree, there's not much you can do now except just look at it and thank it, right? And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you, big fellow. You're an institution. We couldn't have done it without you. You're the man. We love you, buddy. We can handle it without you, don't you worry. You've done good so far, but we'll take it from here. We love you, man. I'll never forget you. We'll never forget you.